And welcome to Navigate B2B, Thanksgiving Container Giving Edition, Wishbone Edition. I'm your host, Steve Ferreira, and I'm CEO of Ocean Audit, a global ocean freight recovery auditing firm based here in Hartford, Connecticut. And we had just a great fest yesterday, and I hope you had the same with your family. The pecan pie was great. The wishbone is sitting out there waiting to dry. And I know we'll have a tussle between our young ones today in terms of who's going to break the wishbone. And that's why we are into the wishbone edition of Navigate B2B. And today is Black Friday. But is that really a thing? I think our content today will help the viewer navigate, you see what I did there, through some of the issues that maybe it's not and maybe it is. But the strength of this market is incredible. And as I take you through today's show, I've developed some great content to help you see the point. As a matter of fact, let's start with everyone's favorite, Amazon. I love Amazon, and I want to bring you the latest and greatest volumes in the last 2 days of why Amazon is blowing out the market. I took a snapshot of Amazon Logistics, which is Amazon's fulfillment by Amazon division. It's probably one of the divisions that's had the most explosive growth at Amazon, and you just won't believe what I found. You can see from the chart at hand that in the last couple of days, Amazon's had over 632 containers imported compared to only 186 the year before, for an incredible 239% increase. Amazon Logistics is a monster and may be a force to be reckoned with when it comes to the overall market in terms of perhaps Amazon sometimes soliciting your cargo as an NVOCC move. Folks, they've had plenty of practice. And when you look at where Black Friday has gone, well, I would say out of those 600 plus containers that I've tracked in the last couple of days, maybe 30 or 40 of them are TV wall mount brackets for your big screen Amazon TVs or Best Buy TVs. So I don't know what this says about where Amazon and some of the other vendors that we're going to talk about today are predicting where the market will go. But it is certainly an interesting dynamic. And, who else could, when you have a 7, a 9, and a 15-year-old in the Ferrera family household, who could not talk about the topics of PlayStation 5? I don't know about you guys, but I'm being told this is one of the hottest items on the planet for Christmas. And, one of the things that ocean freight does for us is it tells a tale. We can look at the increments of containers and the products and the SKUs. Many customers don't really disguise the data. And Sony is one that gives us complete entry points in terms of where their PlayStation 5 units are coming in imported from Asia. Now, I'm not an economist, and nor I am a consumer behaviorist. I'm just a plain old ocean freight guy that's been in the trade 38 years. And when I look at the PlayStation numbers and I look at the strength of the units that they imported in October, now, my November numbers are month to date. They're pretty close. They're probably about 130, 140,000 units. But it went from 323,000 units of PlayStation to about 140,000 units. This may be the media story. Someone grabs a snippet of this and says, wow, Navigate B2B at FreightWaves just reported this incredible opportunistic move. Now, opportunistic in the sense, is it a brilliant PR move on PlayStation and Sony to create buzz for the PlayStation? Or is it just a byproduct of Containergeddon and not getting the cargo on the ships? However, I will say, and I believe that our next guest later on in the segment will reinforce this, is that there is plenty of room on these ships when you pay $5,000 and $6,000 to get the cargo on. So I don't know. I am really, really, truly intrigued about the PlayStation numbers. Artificial demand, hot market, creates quite a viral buzz. So you're learning a little bit about this on the Wishbone edition. Now let's talk about Walmart. I love the Walmart economists that have come up with this one. Now, Walmart has decided in the last couple of days to have 130 containers of this luggage, this very luggage that you see on the screen, the Protege 28-inch luggage, they have decided, again, I can only predict, the vaccine's going to work. We're going to be back at travel. Americans need their luggage. They want to buy consumer goods, and then they're going to segue into the service businesses. I think the choice of Walmart, and this is just happening as we speak, I would bet that well over half of these containers of luggage are still at the port in California. This is how fresh the data is, and this is really what the Navigate B2B show is designed to do. But the fact that it's so much luggage, does Walmart know something that we don't know? And that, my friends, is an interesting story all to itself. And we move along in our Containergeddon Black Friday, post-Black Friday, or actually, let's put Black Friday to bed. Maybe this is the funeral death knell for Black Friday. But Amazon is not to be done by our friends at Peloton. The home cycling craze, the home fitness craze is all the rage. You have 50 containers of these beautiful recumbent, I call it incumbent. I got to get past the election, of course, but these recumbent bikes are just, all the rage. And these are a fairly low price point bike. And what is Amazon telling us? Now, is it kind of like a mixed message? We have Walmart saying luggage, and we have Amazon saying recumbent bike. And I think this might be the crux of where we are in Containergeddon, is no one really knows what the next playbook will be. And again, to plug my upcoming guest soon, I think our guests will maybe help me fill in some of the cracks. We're really an incredible team. I bring kind of this content, and then he brings more of the operational reality of what we're seeing in the market. But the Amazon machine is alive and well, and you have 50 containers. Now, who would bring 50 containers of bikes in, right? Well, Amazon could do it, Target could do it, Walmart could do it. If we move on, I think the trend here in home consumerism, home improvement. Now, this is a nice, beautiful wine cooler, right? Maybe a luxury item. But again, you have 30 containers of these that just came in a few days ago. 30 containers of wine coolers. I mean, now I have to look and say, well, how is wine from the North Atlantic, from Portugal, from Spain? You can start to make some correlations in terms of, or even American wine, right? So Amazon's betting that you're going to buy the big screen TV, you're going to put it on an Amazon wall mount, you're going to buy the one commodity I didn't put on is Walmart has these rocker chairs for gaming, 130 rocker chairs. I didn't even broadcast it today. But you're going to be sitting on your rocker chair, and you're going to be drinking from your invading, wine-chilled Amazon creature of convenience as we start to increase the home convenience factor post-COVID. So again, what is this a bet on? Consumerism, retailism, or just a continuation of Containergeddon? It's a fascinating study in what Amazon has done. Now, listen, not to be outdone here, right? This is all not gloom and doom for the American export. FONIC is an incredible manufacturer of industrial robots. And one of the things about these industrial robots is that, oh no, they're not coming from China. No. These beautiful boys are coming from Japan. And these beauties cost a pretty penny. And so they're going to be instrumental in manufacturing and moving cargo that probably will help touch the U.S. export economy as well as support the U.S. import economy. I love the idea that we're seeing industrial type products that keep this market incredibly strong, as well as the essential and non-essential retailers. I wanted to throw in these industrial and robots in our show today because I believe the heartland of America, the Michigans, the Ohios, the Wisconsins, I think these are so instrumental states in terms of getting us back to a even keel on exports, where exports have always been typically, at this time of the year, you're hearing a lot of buzz on the agricultural side of exports. I think there's a corollary story where American exports can rise again like the Phoenix. So I was really impressed to see these are all real-time moves. So everything I've talked about so far is really keeping in the last 2 or 3 days or 4 days of activity, not something that happened 3 or 4 months ago. Now, not to be done by Elon Musk, again, somebody I'd love to have on my show. I think that this is exclusive content from Navigate B2B. Worked on this a little bit with Phil LeBeau at CNBC some time back, and it's nice to have a pipeline. Phil is one of the more respected auto writers in America, and we chatted, and I think he agreed that this is a real big story. And this is a story I broke, in terms of my own research a few weeks ago, and it's starting to really come in now. This is the joint venture between VOLVO and Geely in China of the electric-powered car called the Polestar. And so these Polestars will not necessarily set the world on fire compared to the Tesla. And the Tesla is, just an incredible machine. And, Polestar, I like the clean looks of it. I like the dynamics of what the machine looks like. Look how sleek it looks. And I think we can certainly really look at the Polestar as another entry to be concerned about for the competitiveness of the electrical vehicle market. I'm certainly impressed with the Polestar. But on the other hand, I've also read that Cadillac has better automated driving capabilities over the Tesla. So we'll have to keep our eye on how all these participants in the electric vehicle and the components are impacted. Certainly General Motors, Ford, Volvo, Bridgestone, Goodyear, Continental Tire. These are all huge importers, from Asia and Europe, trying to get the machines and the production and even the robotics to manufacture their cars where they need to be. And I think that one of the most interesting things as we start to, look into the strength of the market, America's team, the Dallas Cowboys. Oh my God. When I saw this one, I thought to myself, I could do a story just on this. This is pretty cool. And so, you look at this and you say, Dallas Cowboys, disposable face masks. And I didn't mean to use the graphics of a football helmet, with the face mask. I mean to tell you that the Dallas Cowboys purchasing department is actually bringing in disposable medical face masks for their fans. What a brilliant idea. Can you imagine an NFL team sourcing and bringing in medical quality face masks to dispense at the games? And at first I thought this was a little bit of an outlier, right? I thought to myself, wait a minute. I'm a big football fan. Do the Cowboys even allow fans at the stadiums? And I looked it up, and they allow a limited amount of fans. And to keep the fans safe, they have decided to go the market of, bulk face masks, disposable face masks. So they have 10 containers that just came in 3, 4, 5 days ago, going into their ranch services in, I forget what they call it. I used to live in Dallas. There's something ranch is where their corporate headquarters are. So they feed these in, and I'm sure they have a system. You don't see it on CBS or Fox News or ESPN. You don't show somebody being handed a face mask. But it's just like the greatest thing in the world that, in spite of all these football games getting canceled, we have America's team, looking at it. So I think that, as we start to think about the future, the question has to really be asking ourselves is how long can these demand volumes be expected to continue? I mean, if Dallas Cowboys are bringing in 10 containers of disposable masks, what does it say about the strength? What does it say about the strength of what we did in the earlier slide of Amazon? 300%, 200%. I spoke to Costas Paris of the Wall Street Journal recently, And I had a client that told me just, we were just talking casually, and he said, "Hey, Steve, we're hearing 300% increases in Walmart, Target's, Amazon's peak. And you know what? The numbers are really close. It may not be 300% increase in this peak across the board, but I'm beginning to understand that I don't even know what a peak is anymore." And, when we talk about some of the things that, my awesome friend and colleague has done for me in preparation for the show, Jon Monroe I'm referring to, Jon has really told me about the fact that he's seeing bookings stronger in December than he did in November. I mean, holy cow. I had on Jay Mitzmeyer, and Jay and I are now, BFFs, and Jay is the lead researcher at Value Investors Edge, right? Where, he's making recommendations or consulting and container stocks to clients, high worth individual clients across the world. And, Jay's laughing to the bank. I mean, every time these ocean rates spike and the volume spike, the underlying assets of a Maersk or of a global ship lease, the ship lease holders, these all rise incrementally. And last week's show, Jay showed you the V-shaped curve that's the container market stocks recovering in. And containers don't lie, to paraphrase something a good friend of mine, Lorianne LaRocco of CNBC says. We can see it. It's one of my favorite movies is Tom Cruise Mission Impossible series. And there's one movie where he pretends he's a state of Virginia, a highway inspector or a highway engineer. And he says, somebody taps their brakes on the highway and you can sense it for 50 miles away. And I think that's one of the really interesting things about this market is that we're starting to see the brakes tapping, and the brakes tap on the road, and we can see the strength of the market. And so I just think it's wonderful that someone like Jon has been able to do that. So I think we have Jon on audio, and I just wanted to, before I bring Jon in to help us talk a little bit more about these really interesting demands, let me introduce him with a little 30-second overview here. So my guest today is probably one of the 5 top guys in the container shipping market. Of course, I like to put myself up there as well. But I've known, the thing about Jon is that we go back 35 years. And Jon is CEO of Jon Monroe Consulting. And Jon is also the North American rep of Worldwide Logistics, which is the 23 largest NVO in the trade. And I think that Jon is just a real renaissance man when it comes to container shipping. We certainly go back. He's developed order management systems. He's done sales, marketing, IT, and there's not a smarter guy on the planet that I think in container shipping. So let me welcome my next guest, Jon Monroe. Jon, hi, it's Steve. Nice to have you online.
Steve, thank you. Really appreciate the invitation. And after that introduction, I'm not sure where to go, but really excited to be here.
Well, I can certainly take us in a direction that will help the audience get a feel for our chemistry and camaraderie. I think that, one of the things that was really interesting is I can go back and I can remember back in 1985 or 1986, and Jon and I are sitting in a sales meeting in San Francisco and Oakland, California, and our sales manager or sales director looks at everyone in the room and said, "Everyone, car keys out." And you go out to the parking lot, open your trunk out. And we had something called trunk inspection. Do you remember that, Jon?
Yes, I do.
And could you tell the audience a little bit about why that was so important back then?
Well, it was all about preparedness. And we had a director of sales that was pretty intense, and he wanted everybody to be spot on every day. So at any given time, we would be challenged as whether or not our car was clean, whether our shoes were shined, and whether we had appointments set up. So a part of that was last minute inspections.
I love it. And, we were just talking about inspections, the way that you take apart and inspect this market, Jon. We have about 10 minutes in our program, but I think the three takeaways that I want to give my audience today is I just was talking before you came on about the incredible analysis that you did and you fed to me about November's market being a bit stronger than even December's. Could you give us a little commentary on what you see for November?
Well, November's pretty much done, and that's a pretty strong market. And November was pretty flat with September, give or take. I think there's a lot of people looking at the market and thinking, well, TEUs are up or down, and that is an indication. But right now, with the equipment problems the way they are, what we're seeing is we're seeing bookings very strong, and there may or may not be a correlation between bookings and liftings. And that's just simply because of the equipment imbalance. So we are seeing strong bookings for December as well, which is quite surprising because at a time when it normally should be dropping off, it's actually climbing. So that seems to indicate that, we're going to be strong through Chinese New Year. People are moving spring and summer merchandise up because they know that there's delays. And so it could run through the middle of 2021. And if we have a recovery due to the vaccine, it could carry it even further. This demand could have legs.
John, it's fascinating because, breaking stories, the FMC is looking at ports, they're looking at demurrage, detention, they're looking at alliances, they're looking at a system that is somewhat broken. And, you live in China part of the year, you're an expert over there. Certainly the Chinese have maybe, you could say in retrospect, even taken a more assertive approach in kind of getting the carriers a little bit under their wings. I think that we see in the U.S. here, the import side being so broken. And, we both have clients constantly. I have a client that called me the other day, Steve, I know you do ocean audits, but do you have any connections that can get me space? John, in a nutshell, what would be a few options that importers might have today to maybe escape Containergeddon? Do you have any magic bullet that you could at least throw out to the audience?
Well, it's not like you can have a plan B. It's all about planes, trains, and ships. And, it used to be back in the 90s, companies like Fritz and Circle sold this seamless integrated supply chain. And now UPS and FedEx and Kuehne+Nagel and everybody try to sell that. But it's not there. I mean, the supply chain is a series of handoffs. And what has happened as a result of all of the blank sailings prior to the contracts and then all of the extra loaders coming in July, I think 18 of them just into Southern California, has created this massive movement of equipment. And it has completely broken the supply chain in the Trans-Pacific. But now it's gone worldwide. So if you're in China and you're looking to allocate a container, you have to decide whether you're going to allocate it to Europe, the US, or some cross trade. And so far, the U.S. has been priority number one because of rates and cycle time. But it's totally broken. It's disconnected.
I agree about the disconnect, and we start to see the ag people the agricultural people are all up in arms because they're not getting their bookings. Containers are sailing back empty. I see a huge move from places like South America back to Asia empty, or Europe through the Americas and then back to Asia empty. With the rebalancing that we need. What are some of the keys that an average beneficial cargo owner could talk to their vendor about? There's no such thing as booking 3 weeks earlier. Are we de facto having to go into these so-called premium services to get on ships?
Well, I don't think the premium services are necessarily going to help. CMA just announced a new premium service from Ningbo, Yantian to LA. Now think about it, 12 days. So you wait an extra week or you get rolled for a week. You wait 3 to 5 days outside the harbor of LA Long Beach.
Right.
And then you've got an extra 2 to 3 days, which means 4 to 5 days to work the vessel. And then you've got a dwell time today on the terminal of about 3.7 to 5.6 days. By the time you're said and done, those express services that are 12 days are 22 days. So the only option I see, I think Walmart's got it good. They've got their distribution sorted out between Houston, Norfolk, and Savannah. Personally, right. I would recommend bypassing California altogether as an importer.
John, that is amazing. I was actually going to go there. I didn't know, we were on the same tune of that. I didn't want to get too deep into the audience, into the micro part of that, but I would say the same exact thing, So I'm going to level set that and say that's a really important takeaway. But, one of the other things I wanted to do, and I don't necessarily, want to plug the work that you do. I do. I want to give you kudos for what you've done at Worldwide Logistics as the North American agent. But, one of the things that people have talked about, it's the mid-tier NVOs that are, in places 20 through 50, and you're, I think, at place 23, and you've done an amazing job. It's the people like yourself, the mid-tier NVOs, as opposed to multinational NVOs, and nothing wrong with them. But, there may be some opportunistic ideas to get cargo on to this, group of 20 to 50 in terms of the global ranking of NVO. I mean, I know you go through the same problems, but can you just give us a half a minute dissection on why a medium tier NVO might be an option for a BCO?
Well, I think the reality is they're more flexible, more nimble. You can actually get somebody on the phone, and whatever you want to say about digitalization and technology today, when
Sure.
we have two pandemics here. We have a pandemic of COVID, and we have a container pandemic, so to speak. So, you need to be focused on both. We don't hear much about the supply chain in the mainstream media today, and we should, because, there's an issue here. The carriers have created this, and now it's throughout the entire supply chain. So, the medium-sized NVOCCs are really the ones that I think are trying to connect the dots. They value their customers much more. If you get to the top tier NVOCCs, I think, and I don't want to pick out any one, but many of the top tier NVOCCs are too siloed, and their systems are predominantly legacy systems. So very often they have a hard time in a situation like this getting access to data.
So John, if somebody is, we'll talk about closing this in a second, but if somebody's listening out there, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, I mean, is there a chance that if they reached out to you that you could perhaps find them a space?
Oh, wow, that's a tough one. We have in some cases found some space for people that have come to us, but right now it's slammed because it's not about space. It's about equipment. Even if you book 3 weeks in advance, let me give you an example. Right now, carriers are so backed up that they roll an entire vessel. So how do you protect space when they're rolling an entire vessel?
Well, you're spot on. I just saw where Maersk is rolling 1 out of 3 cargo. John, as we start to kind of wrap up this incredible session, I can tell you're going to have to be back on again. You blow me away with the wealth of knowledge. Just give me a 30-second, 20-second pinpoint on what do we do with rates in 2021? Normal contracting, or are we into some kind of new normal?
Well, probably a combination of both. And I hate to say that, because that's sort of cheating, I guess, to answer your question. But what I would be concerned with in the contracts is not just simply the base rates. I would be concerned with about my terms. I mean, let's face it. One of the big key things we learned this year is the question that we have is, what is the sanctity of a contract? So you have to really spend some time with your carriers understanding how they're going to support you.
This is great. This is such incredible data. I love everything you've said, and our guest has been Jon Monroe of Jon Monroe Consulting. Everyone out there, we want to thank you. John, you're a great guest. Will you come back?
Absolutely.
Okay, we love you all. Good night and happy Thanksgiving, happy container giving from B2B. We love you. Mwah.